Welcome to my class. In this particular video class, we will talk about the difference between private cloud and public cloud. First one, on the basis of sharing, private cloud infrastructure is a dedicated infrastructure created by an organization for its own use. So in this case, there is no sharing with any other company. The company which has created the private cloud shall make exclusive use of the private cloud. In the case of public cloud, the resources are shared between multiple clients. Second point, on the basis of control over services. In the case of private cloud, all services are determined and controlled by the organization which has created the private cloud. In the case of public cloud, all services are controlled by the service provider. Third, on the basis of control over data, users and assets. In case of private cloud, the user organization has better controls over data storage, over their users and information assets. In the case of public cloud, the user organization has no control over data storage and information assets. There are certain issues of data privacy and integrity in case of public cloud. Fourth, on the basis of easy to deploy. Private clouds are not easy to install as it requires the specialist services of IT department. Public clouds are available as a service on the internet, so they are easy to deploy by service user organization. Fifth, on the basis of security, the private cloud belongs to a single client. Hence, the infrastructure and systems can be configured to provide highest level of security. But in the case of public cloud, since the hardware resources are shared between multiple users, IT security issues are more profound and data is vulnerable to thefts. The security level in case of public cloud, it may be compromised. Sixth one, on the basis of availability, the IT resources and services are available for use only on the completion of deployment process. Whereas in case of public cloud, the IT resources and services are available to user company immediately, thus saving time for the user company. Seventh, initial investment. Initial investment for hardware is very high in case of an on-premise infrastructure. Initial investment is moderate for service provider. For service user or clients, initial investment is very low. Eighth, performance. Normally, private clouds are deployed inside the firewall of the organization's intranet, which ensures efficiency and secured network performance. Whereas public clouds are in the premises of service provider, the efficiency and network performance depends on the quality of infrastructure installed by the service provider. The performance of the network depends on the speed of internet connectivity as well. Ninth, internal IT staff. In the private cloud, the hardware and networks are maintained by the user organization. Internal IT staffs of the user organization has the sole responsibility to maintain the infrastructure. But in the case of public cloud, the hardware and networks are maintained by the cloud service provider. Internal IT staffs of client organization have no responsibility in maintaining the infrastructure. 10th, regarding customization. In case of private cloud, the hardware and other resources can be customized easily by the user company as per its requirements. Whereas in case of public cloud, in general, services provided by the service provider are available on as it is basis. If a client requires customization of services, then it comes at a cost. Long-term commitment. The user organization has long-term commitment in the deployment of the resources. In case of public cloud, no long-term commitment by user organization or client because public clouds are usually pay-as-you-go models. 12th, service level policies. In case of private cloud, the service level policies and compliances are completely determined and enforced by the user organization. Whereas in case of public cloud, the service level policies and compliances are completely enforced by the service provider. Cost. Regarding private cloud, costs are substantial in case of building an on-premise private cloud. In that case, the running cost would include personnel cost and periodic hardware upgrade cost. In the case of outsourced private cloud, operating cost will include per resource usage and subject to change at the discretion of the service provider. But in the case of public cloud, these are owned and managed by the service providers. For service provider, there is big cost, but for the service consumer, that is client, it is monthly subscription charges or particular service subscription charges. 14th, underutilization. In some instances, the resources subscribed can be underutilized. Hence, optimizing the utilization of all resources is a big challenge in case of private cloud. In the case of public cloud, there are less chances of resources remain underutilized if the customer base is sufficiently large. 15th point, vendor lock-in. In the case of private cloud, this can be a major hurdle in private cloud adoption, especially when the hardware and infrastructure is outsourced. This is a service delivery technique where the client company is forced to continue with the same service provider, thus preventing that client to migrate to another vendor. But in the case of public cloud, this is a service delivery technique where the client company is free to leave the existing service provider, thus the client may migrate to another service provider. So here we can see that there are certain merit points for the private cloud and there are certain merits for the public clouds. Both of the cloud patterns, they have their advantages as well as disadvantages. But they can be used in two different situations very well. Thank you very much.